Hello everyone, welcome to today's story. The city lights shimmered against the company's glass walls, calm, silent, yet fragile. Lytuna walked out of the office carrying a file, her steps light after a long day beside Alex. For the first time in months, peace seemed within reach. Alex had smiled at her that evening, a quiet smile, full of trust. But from the shadows of a nearby car, a pair of eyes followed her every move. The woman in the driver's seat gripped the steering wheel, her gaze burning with resentment. She was Alex's former assistant, and once she had been the one standing beside him. Now, all she saw was the woman who had taken everything she lost. The wind brushed through Lytuna's hair, carrying both warmth and omen. Somewhere, fate was shifting. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The truth is just beginning to unfold. The night settled heavily over the city, wrapping the streets in silver mist. Lytuna walked toward the parking lot, her steps slow, calm, unaware that each echo was being watched. The screen of her phone lit up with a message. "Call me when you get home. I'll wait." Alex's words made her smile, small but tender. She looked up at the moon, feeling the quiet joy of being loved. Across the road, inside a parked car, Lon, Alex's former assistant, clenched her jaw. Once, she had been the one Alex looked at that way, but not anymore. Her heart had become a glass filled with cracks of jealousy. Picking up the phone, she whispered with frozen calm, "Do it tonight. I want her gone." The order was simple. The consequence, irreversible. As Lytuna turned the corner, two men stepped out of the shadows. A hand clamped over her mouth. A sharp smell, darkness. Her phone hit the ground, its light flickering against the rain-soaked pavement, still showing Alex's name. At that same moment, Alex was staring at the clock. 10 minutes late. 15. He dialed again. No answer. Something inside him broke into panic. He rushed outside, his voice echoing in the cold night. The city's lights blurred as he ran, calling her name. At the parking lot, all he found was silence, and her phone glowing weakly in the rain. He picked it up, fingers trembling. The message still glowed. "I'll wait for you." His breath hitched. His world began to tilt. At the police station, his words spilled out faster than his thoughts. "She's missing. Please, you have to do something." But the officer's calm expressions only deepened his fear. Procedures, they said, investigation. But love doesn't wait for forms. Meanwhile, Lytuna woke to the scent of rust. The air was thick, heavy. Her wrists were tied, her mouth dry. Panic rose, but then she remembered Alex's promise. "No matter what happens, I'll protect you." She whispered it to herself like a prayer. Outside, rain began to fall, slow at first, then steady. And somewhere, beneath the same storm, Alex drove through the streets, his heart beating against the thunder. Each drop on the windshield was a question with no answer. He didn't know where she was, only that he couldn't stop until he found her. Dawn never came for Alex that night, only the gray ache of exhaustion. Papers, phone calls, and unanswered prayers scattered across his desk. Every ring of the phone made his heart leap, only to shatter again into silence. When it finally rang for real, he answered before the first tone ended. "If you want to see Lytuna alive, don't call the police." The voice was distorted, mechanical. Then, nothing. Alex froze. The air felt like knives. He dropped to his knees, his tears mixing with the rain from the open window. For the first time, he understood what true fear meant, not of death, but of losing the one reason he still breathed. Hours later, a new call came, this time from the company's security team. "Sir, we found something. A video from the parking lot." He ran to the office. The footage flickered on the screen. Lytuna, walking alone, smiling while on the phone. Then, two figures approached her. The image blurred, then vanished. But one frame froze Alex's breath. A car parked across the street. Inside, a faint silhouette, a woman's face he knew too well. Lon. He stormed to her apartment, knocking once before the door burst open. She stood there, pretending calm. "Alex, what's wrong? You know exactly what's wrong." His voice trembled, not with fear but fury. Lon's mask cracked. "I didn't mean for it to go that far. I just wanted to scare her." "Scare her?" Alex's words came out like broken glass. "You call this scaring? She took everything from me." Lon's tears streamed down her cheeks. "You looked at her the way you used to look at me." Alex's shoulders dropped, his anger dissolving into grief. "You never understood," he whispered. "Lytuna didn't steal me. She taught me what love really is." Lon's voice broke. "They've taken her to a warehouse, out by the edge of the city." Without another word, Alex grabbed her arm and pulled her with him. The car roared into the wet dawn. The clouds above churned, heavy and metallic, like the taste of fear. When they reached the outskirts, a forgotten warehouse loomed, rusted and silent. Rain lashed against its walls as Alex pushed the gate open. Inside, darkness. Then, a voice. Weak, fragile, familiar. "Alex?" He ran toward the sound, stumbling over broken crates, until the beam of his flashlight found her. Lytuna, bound, pale, trembling. Their eyes met, hers filled with tears, his with disbelief. "I knew you'd come," she whispered, smiling through the pain, and at that moment, everything changed. Rain poured like shattered glass as Alex rushed forward, cutting through the maze of shadows. Lytuna sat slumped against a column, wrists bound, eyes wide with disbelief. When she saw him, her lips trembled, not out of fear, but release. "Alex." Her whisper barely reached him through the roar of rain, yet it was the only sound that mattered. He knelt before her, tearing at the ropes with shaking hands until they broke, skin splitting against the coarse fiber. The moment she fell into his arms, the world exhaled. The darkness, the fear, the silence, all dissolved beneath the weight of their reunion. "I'm sorry," Alex gasped, his voice cracking. "I should have been there. I should have walked you to your car. Lytuna placed a trembling hand on his cheek. "You found me. That's what matters." Behind them, Lon stood frozen at the doorway, drenched in rain, watching the scene unfold. Her breath came in ragged bursts, guilt tearing through her composure. "I didn't mean for this," she stammered. They weren't supposed to hurt her. Alex turned, his eyes hollow. "You don't get to decide what pain means." Lan's face twisted, part shame, part desperation. "I loved you." "No," he said quietly. "You loved what you couldn't control." For a long moment, only the sound of rain filled the air, relentless, punishing, cleansing. Lytuna leaned against Alex's chest, weak but breathing, her pulse syncing with his. In that fragile heartbeat, life returned. Outside, faint sirens began to rise, growing louder, closer. Alex had triggered the silent alarm before entering, knowing he might never walk out again. When the warehouse doors burst open, officers stormed in, their flashlights slicing through the dark. 2 men were dragged away in cuffs. Lan didn't resist. She simply lowered her head, whispering something Alex couldn't hear, as if confessing to the rain itself. Lytuna blinked up at him. "It's over?" He nodded, though his voice failed him. "It's over?" The storm began to fade, replaced by the delicate hush of dawn. Alex wrapped his jacket around her shoulders. Together, they stepped out of the warehouse, into a world reborn by rain. Outside, the sky split open, streaks of pale light cutting through the clouds. Lytuna shivered, her skin cold, but her heart steady. "I was afraid you wouldn't find me. I promised I would," he said softly. "Even if I had to search the whole world." For a moment she looked at him, really looked, and realized that love wasn't always peaceful. Sometimes it was a storm that broke you just to rebuild you stronger. Lan was led away by the officers, her tears mixing with the drizzle. Lytuna turned slightly, meeting her gaze. There was no hatred in her eyes, only quiet sadness, the kind that understands pain too deeply to return it. Back at the car, Alex started the engine. The windshield wipers swept away the remnants of the storm. Lytuna leaned her head against his shoulder, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do you think we'll ever forget this night?" He looked ahead, where the horizon glowed gold. "No," he murmured, "but maybe that's the point. Some nights aren't meant to be forgotten." The city slowly came alive again, lights flickering on, birds breaking the silence. As they drove toward the hospital, the first rays of sunlight kissed the rain-drenched streets. In that fragile, golden hour, love wasn't a promise anymore. It was proof. Morning sunlight spilled gently through the hospital window, drawing golden lines across the pale sheets. Lytuna blinked awake. The sterile air filled with the scent of flowers and the quiet rhythm of machines. Beside her, Alex sat, the same clothes, the same eyes, now heavy with relief. He had barely moved all night. When she stirred, his fingers instinctively tightened around hers. "You're safe now," he whispered, voice soft like the morning. Lytuna smiled faintly. "I knew you'd come." Outside, the city hummed again. Buses, birds, the faint laughter of a world that had already forgotten last night's storm. But for them, the memory lingered. It was etched into their bones, into the silence between their breaths. Alex brushed a strand of hair from her forehead. "I kept thinking," he said quietly, "what if love isn't about keeping someone close, but finding them, again and again, no matter how far they're taken?" Lytuna turned to him, her eyes filled with light. "Then you found me, twice." He laughed softly, though it carried the weight of all they'd endured. She leaned against his shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart, once frantic, now calm. The kind of calm that comes only after surviving chaos. Through the window, the world gleamed fresh. Rain still clung to the leaves outside, glittering like fragments of yesterday's pain now turned to beauty. Lan's confession, the kidnappers, the fear, all of it was fading into something distant, like a bad dream dissolving in sunlight. Alex exhaled, long and slow. "I used to think love was a word," he murmured. "But now I know it's a choice. 1,000 small choices, to stay, to search, to forgive." Tuna's eyes softened. Then let's keep choosing. The camera of life would have panned outward there, the two of them by the window, fingers intertwined, the city alive below. The rain had stopped, but its echo still lingered, reminding them that peace isn't the absence of storms, but surviving them together. Outside, a bird sang, one clear, unwavering note that rose above the noise of the world. Tuna smiled, whispering, "After all storms, there's always light." Alex looked at her, and for the first time, believed it. Maybe love doesn't end. It just changes shape, from fear to faith, from pain to peace. And in that morning light, they began again.
Sau một ngày làm việc, Tử Na rời công ty trong niềm tin bình yên, không biết rằng Lan trợ lý cũ của Alex đang theo dõi và cơn ghen ầm ĩ. Đêm đó Tử Na bị bắt cóc, để lại chiếc điện thoại. Sáng giữa mưa, Alex lao vào màn đêm tuyệt vọng, tìm kiếm khắp nơi cho đến khi phát hiện sự thật. Lan là kẻ đứng sau, anh buộc cô dẫn mình đến nơi giam giữ, cứu Tử Na giữa cơn bão trong đêm. Mưa rửa sạch mọi tội lỗi, bình minh mang theo sự tha thứ. Trong bệnh viện, họ nắm tay nhau, hiểu rằng tình yêu không được bảo vệ bằng lời hứa mà bằng hành động.